So we're in one of the most famous Sam Smith pubs in England, in Britain. We are in the King's, well, we're not in the King's Arms. We're sat by the riverside outside the King's Arms, which, as you can see, has a picture of Richard III on it, which is something very, very rare, because Richard III is supposed to be one of the most hated kings. I say that, but there are still fan clubs set up to this day that borderline worship Richard III.
It was Richard III who said, "My kingdom for a horse," wasn't it?
Richard III is the chap in the 1400s who, when his relative Edward IV died, he took the throne, but in doing so, Edward IV's two sons went missing in the tower. So most people believe that that man there killed his nephews, because Edward IV was his brother, and that's how he took the throne. And most of us that have tried to find a way for that not to be true can't find one. So the chances are that Richard III probably killed his nephews in the White Tower in London.
It's unthinkable, but it must be true.
And it was he who was killed at the Battle of Bosworth Field to begin the Tudor dynasty, when Henry VII, Henry Tudor, took the throne of England. And it's all downhill from there. From there, obviously, we had his son, first Arthur, who died, Henry VIII, and so on and so on. Anyway, this public house is a famous spot in York, mainly because it's a beautiful spot on the river. But there are a few fascinating points about it, other than the fact it's absolutely beautiful, such as when it was first turned into a pub, it had no downstairs fireplaces at first, because it's believed that it was an old industrial warehouse, if you like. And it still maintains something unique about its architecture in the way that all its electric plugs and all of its pumps have to be basically at ceiling level or upstairs, because this pub is prone to flood and alleges to be the most flooded pub in Britain. Now, some accounts say that this could happen 4 times a year, but when I asked the barman, he said it's more like 1, but he said that it always happens yearly. So if it doesn't happen 4, it at least happens once. And in there you will see a marker as to how high the water levels can reach. So it's a bit like when I was at a beautiful little pub in Ironbridge in Telford, Jackfield in Telford, and they suffered from the same thing. So therefore they had to deck out the pub and facilitate the features in preparation for the next flood. Now, this pub apparently would still keep it open even when it was flooded. So I don't know if you had little dinghies or lilos and you'd sort of float your way in and get yourself a beer, but apparently it's no longer safe to do, so they don't do it. Who's making these health and safety regulations, eh? I don't know, it's not on. But other than that, it's a beautiful building, and it's like I said earlier, many people will come to York, come to London, and they will just sort of entrust the sites or tour pamphlets or even tour guides to tell them everything they need. For me, I think you need to look ahead of time. If you're going somewhere in a month or even 6 months, you've got plenty of time to do your research and figure out where is the most interesting spot for you to go and visit. This is a Sam Smith's pub, so I'm here with my Sam Smith's lager, and I will admit there's only X amount of these I can manage, not because they're too strong, but because the taste is what it is. So once again, I will say that I am impressed with Sam Smith for being able to brew all of his own alcohol and make beautifully decked out pubs, because both of them are an art in themselves. So to be able to pull off both, if I didn't know anything about pubs and you said to me, let's go in this pub and it only sells its own alcohol, I'd say no. But luckily, I'd accidentally tried plenty of Sam Smith's pubs when I was young, before even realising what they really were. So I can enjoy a few Sam Smith's beverages. Obviously, Lee here enjoys Sam Smith's wine overly, because he's flying through it like excrement through a goose.
Italian Sam Smith's wine.
Is that what it is?
Going back to what you said about the flooding, did you notice the bar area and that was all very basic?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it
yeah,
obviously
yeah.
has to get replaced. Or
Well, the barman turned around and showed me all the plugs for ceiling height.
Yeah, but obviously once a year, if it floods, it all has to get ripped out and
Yeah,
done again. So
yeah,
it's
yeah,
all
yeah. Yeah.
quite like wood and just wood.
The pub used to be called, and I'm sorry if I butcher this pronunciation, the Ooze Inn. Now, when I first read it, I was going to say Oos Inn, but luckily the lovely wandering Englishman advised me that I was pronouncing it wrong, and it's the Ooze Inn.
My father, Henry Crick, took care of the sluice gate on a branch of the River Ouse.
And that will be because this was the Ouse Bridge, where people were allegedly hung from for various reasons. So there's always a huge level of macabre history. I think with Britain, it's very rare that you're going to find any pleasant history where you're not going to find swathes of macabre and dark history. And once again, that's what makes us, us. Britain is a rainy, drizzly, dark, morbid place, and I think that's what gives us the necessary stoicism to interact with the rest of the world. After all, they're all too happy for our own good, aren't they? That's why English people don't trust anyone. All these smiling people, they make us suspicious. But when I went in, the staff were lovely, absolutely charming. And I must say, whenever I go into Sam Smith pubs, I usually do encounter charming staff. It's like their CV says, must be charming. So I'll give them that credit. Some people actually hate Sam Smith for reasons I won't go into. I'll leave that to you. Ultimately, he creates absolutely magnificent places that museums should be jealous of. After all, I'm seeing museums and art galleries built across Europe, and they look like spaceships. And Sam Smith's going out of his way to make somewhere that actually looks historically relevant to the Anglo-Celtic British Isles. So I must commend him for that. And I love the corner pub. You see there's a separate sign up there with a couple of hogs on. But for me, it's really nice to see, for a change, Richard III, who, as I said, some people think he's a tyrant, some people think he's a legend. And if you look into it, as I said, there are still to this day people that gather once a year to say that Richard III was innocent, he didn't kill his nephews. Well, they're more confident about it than I am. So anyway, the King's Arms from Wandering Englishman, Lee Maverick with there's nothing.
Got nothing because it's in his round.
And there's another thing that we're not happy about. Oh, there's a fly in my soup. There's another thing we're not happy about is these plastic glasses. How are you meant to be a hooligan with a plastic glass? Right. Anyway, to never drinking, doing drugs, or fornicating again. See you soon. Think for yourself. Someone's got it.